remakes. If they're done right, they can be something magical. They can put a modern take on old games. They can make you relive your childhood. To put it simply, you can do a lot with remakes. And I think it's pretty safe to say that Nintendo makes some good remakes. Sometimes. But there are still a lot of Nintendo games out there that could use a remake. So I made a list of Nintendo games that I think need remakes. But before we get into it, just know that this entire list is subjective. This is all my opinion. So why not start with the game that basically inspired me to make this video. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, known as both the hardest and worst Zelda game. So the hardest Zelda game, huh? I mean, yeah, I think I can agree with that one. But the worst Zelda game? Not so much. In fact, I recently played it for the first time and I think it's pretty fucking amazing. Okay, it's probably not the best in the series or anything, but this comes from someone who has only played Breath of the Wild, half of A Link to the Past, and like a few hours of Tears of the Kingdom at the most. I haven't played any other Zelda game. If I had to rank these 4 games from worst to best based on how much I enjoyed them, I would put Zelda 2 at number 2 behind Breath of the Wild. Because I think the game is really fun despite how much it kicked my ass. But that doesn't mean there is no room for improvement. The first thing that I noticed about Zelda 2 is the lack of classic Zelda items. Only a few minutes of talking about this game and I already sound like a Zelda fan. Oh god. Like, where is the bow and arrow, bombs, the boomerang, or even the hookshot? Like, just give Link more tools to work with. Cause he needs it. If you know, you know. And another item that they need to add to this remake is rupees. Make enemies drop rupees or just hide them in the overworld. Add shops to the towns where we can spend them on arrows, bombs, or just new items in general. And this will encourage the player to explore Hyrule and go off the main path. Oh, and now that we're talking about the overworld, why are there no overworld bosses? In Zelda 2, you'll only ever encounter bosses in the palaces / dungeons, whatever you want to call them. So when I found out there were no overworld bosses, I was a little disappointed. Because I really like Zelda 2's bosses, especially this dragon boss, Barba. Barba. Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, add overworld bosses that may give you extra rupees, or an optional item rewarding the player for going out of their way to fight it. Like, Miyamoto, what was once your quote-unquote bad game can become a great one if you remake it. And I can go on and on how they can improve this game, but there is just way too much to talk about. If you want me to make a video where I go in detail on how they can improve this game, then let me know, cause I'm getting closer to that Zelda fan label. Oh god. But I will say one last thing before we move on to the next game. Please rework Death Mountain. Again, if you know, you know. Now, I know Super Metroid doesn't need a remake as much as Zelda 2 does. It's already a great game with little flaws, but it deserves a remake, because not many people have played it. And now with Metroid being at its highest thanks to Dread and the upcoming Prime 4, I think it's time that we finally see this masterpiece return in full glory. I mean, Metroid 1 and 2 got remakes, so why not Metroid 3? Like, if Nintendo announces a Super Metroid remake, I am immediately sold. Take my money, Nintendo. And while Super Metroid doesn't have many issues, there are a couple that I want to discuss, however. The first one being the final save room of the game. So if you're familiar with Super Metroid at all, you might already know that the final save room pretty much soft locks you from 100%ing that save file, if you haven't already 100%ed it when you first came there. A few rooms before, there's a door that doesn't open once you go through it, so if you save here, you're locked in Torian and you can't 100% that save file anymore. It's a small issue because I don't think many people 100% these games to begin with, but it's worth a fix if this game ever gets remade. And the second issue is that swapping your inventory items can be a mess sometimes, especially during boss encounters. So to select an inventory item, you have to hit select. And this isn't really a problem in the early game when swapping between missiles and super missiles. But in the mid to late game, assuming you found all the power-ups, you'll have 5 inventory items. So let's say you have no items selected and you want to use your grapple beam. You'll have to hit select 4 times to get to it. And once you're done using it, you still have to hit select twice to get back to your normal beam weapon. Now, making a bunch of button combinations for all of these items can be a little bit overwhelming for the player, so I don't really know how they can fix this, but it's worth pointing out. And lastly, whatever you do not, and I repeat, do not remove the sequence breaks, which means do not nerf the wall jump, do not remove the speedy morph ball trick, whatever you call it, just don't remove any sequence breaks. These sequence breaks are this game's identity, and that's also how it should be for this remake. If it ever gets remade. Nintendo, please! So this might be the most surprising pick for many watching this video right now, if they even made it here. Hey, if that's you, I appreciate you for sticking around. And it also probably means you like the video so far, and maybe you'll realize you're not subscribed. Subscribe right now, please. But anyway, back to the Federation Force of Pikmin. So the main reason why I put this game on this list is because I think the game is severely misunderstood, just because it released at the wrong time. It released all the way back in 2017 when every Pikmin fan was hungry for Pikmin 4, like they didn't want anything else. They wanted Pikmin 4 and Pikmin 4 alone. But I'm willing to bet that this game would have had a better reputation among fans if it released after Pikmin 4. But out of all of these games on this list, I think Hey Pikmin would least likely get a remake because, you know, 2 screens. But if you don't want to wait another 10 years for Pikmin 5, we're gonna need a Pikmin spin-off to fill in that gap, and a Hey Pikmin remake can be perfect for that. The game itself doesn't really have many issues aside that Olimar is a little slow. Give him a run button. Boom, problem fixed. And maybe add a side mode because the original didn't have that. Again, very unlikely to get a remake because 2 screens. Or maybe we can get a whole new Pikmin spin-off. I think the second option is more likely. Alright, this might seem like the most biased pick on this list, but trust me, I have my reasons. But first, my biased reasons. First of all, remember when Mercury's team was tasked to make a Metroid remake? Well, fun fact, they originally wanted to remake Metroid Fusion, but that obviously didn't happen. They instead remade Metroid 2 Return of Samus, which was by no means a bad choice, like I love Samus Returns on the 3DS. And with such an impressive remake, I'm still interested what a Mercury's team handled Metroid Fusion would look like. And second of all, it's one of my favorite Metroid games. like it's in the top 5. But because this game is much more linear and its bigger focus on story, it doesn't really get the love and attention that it deserves. Very similar to another Metroid game that's a lot better than people give it credit for. And I'm not gonna continue to ramble about this topic because I have made my opinions on Other M very clear. And while I would love to include it in this video, I've already talked about it in another video. So go watch that if you're interested. Just don't take the intro too seriously. That's all I'm going to say. And now, my non-biased reasons. This might just be me, but I don't hear many people talk about how similar Metroid Dread and Metroid Fusion are structured. And the internet loves Metroid Dread. And I mean they love it. Some people even call it peak Metroid. But hold on a second. If Metroid Dread is peak, and it has such a similar structure to Metroid Fusion, then why does it get so little attention? Well, that's where the remake comes in. A remake can truly allow this game to shine. And if Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion get remakes, that means that every 2D Metroid except for Dread have been remade. And it would be awesome. But are there any issues with the game? No, not really. The only thing that I can ask for is a skip button for the intro cutscene. That's pretty much it. And if you have your own ideas for improvements, then you know what to do. Because a skip button for the intro cutscene is generally the only improvement that I can give to this game. So we're not gonna talk about Luigi's Mansion for long, because the game already got remade for the 3DS. I still don't understand why they remade Luigi's Mansion 1 for the 3DS instead of the Switch. It's, in my opinion, one of the dumbest things Nintendo has ever done. Like, the Switch was already out for a year, it was selling well, and they just put it on the 3DS. Like, why? It could have sold so much better on the Switch. And it's a shame, because the multiplayer with Luigi that had potential is now stuck on the 3DS and runs like dog shit. And I know people are annoyed that Luigi's Mansion 2 got a re-release on Switch instead of Luigi's Mansion 1. I'm not really annoyed by it, because I love Luigi's Mansion 2, it's one of my favorite games. But I understand why people are annoyed. So all they need to do is take the 3DS remake, make the graphics suitable for Switch, or even Switch 2, and that's it. That's all they need to do. And yes, that's how I'm gonna cap off Luigi's Mansion. So, I'm just gonna start off by saying, I did not play this game. I don't know what it is, but god do I wanna try it out though. Not only does it look cool, but this is one of Nintendo's missing franchises. And I wanna try it because I like playing as its characters in Smash Bros. And fun fact, that's how I got into Metroid. I basically got my ass kicked by a level 3 Samus CPU and I thought she was cool. So I tried her games and I have been a fan ever since. So I think the same thing can happen with Kid Icarus, if I can play it. But I'm not gonna buy it on my 3DS. I wanna wait for a remake. Because if I play it now, and I like it, I'll have to go through pain and wait for a remake or a new game entirely. God, I'm so sorry, Kid Icarus fans. And there you have it. That's my personal list of games that deserve remakes. And yeah, I know I didn't have Metroid Prime 2 and 3 or Tomodachi Life on this list because, you know what, let's not go into that. Let's not go into that. But anyways, thank you for watching, subscribe if you for some reason want to see more content from me, and have a good day.